But I think what is also important to know is, at least a wrap up, how in her situation, right? Because back then our parents were not people who will seek help from psychologists. They will only sialang go and seek help from mental, in a way, you know. So their thinking is that. So even at the point when I brought my kids to the psychologist, my parents will think that your kid's so serious. You know, they panic even more. I say, no. I don't need to go to that extent before I bring them. So like, I feel that what is important is, because Isabel, her situation now is, if we are able to tell the public, at least people around, you need to have telltale signs that your kids needs to speak to somebody. Like the just now Nick mentioned, one caring person. So at that point, Isabel may not know who to speak to. That's why she is so lost. She only has her grandma. Luckily, she has a grandma. If don't have a grandma, but because I know, you see, because I know that she has a grandma at home with her, if without, right, who can she talk to? Yeah. Kids don't know. My kids has got nobody except my parents. At least my parents were there in their life throughout. So they know that anything happened, even mom and dad fall apart, we don't know which house to go to. Uncle Amma is there. So this is very important as an anchor. I think this one got to anchor in and say, so that will help the public generally from this case study, I feel.
Yeah, so we're talking about, like, all of us are also patient or client, right? And typically in that context, we are learning, we are receiving care as patient, as client, right? So what we want to be able to then now realize our role is to basically to do what in that role of a client or someone seeking help. So we need to recognize that actually there are people who care for us, not anybody, but someone who I can trust. So like given the patient context, for example, I trust a doctor, I trust a nurse, right? So if you were in that family environment that was so toxic, that was so violent, for example, right, I need to be able to look out for somebody I can trust, right? My neighbor next door, I can run over, I can actually knock the door, or I can go to my school teachers because my teacher's always the one caring for me, looking at my homework, that kind of thing. I tell Mr. Stan, for example, that kind of thing, right? Or maybe a canteen auntie or cleaner in the school, that I trust and always look out for me, that kind of thing, right? But the key word here is somebody, an adult that you trust, right? Don't tell anybody. But then the question about, which in my line of work, we're always very careful about this, right? Because any adult can also appear trusting, right? So we need to teach ourselves, even especially young people, our children, who are the people that you can trust. So the easiest way are those with certain roles, right? That's the easiest way. So in the moment you click, policeman, okay, in uniform, or teacher in school, or counselor in the room, and all these things are easy to point to. A bit more tricky one is that you go along the streets, or like you hang around with, like, say, maybe your camp instructor, that you only spend 3 days with your camp instructor or your camp facilitator, for example. Still a stranger, don't entirely know, but you can actually tell a lot to your camp leader, for example, right? A bit tricky because you cannot say, go and talk to your camp leader, that kind of thing, because you do not know their motive, right? And you do not know how trained they are as well, right? So I guess the default is you can make friends with them, get their phone number, find the names, where they're from, why were they there invited to actually do the camp, that kind of thing, and then always refer to the school, right? Rule of thumb is basically, always defer to the school. Even the schools have a policy, right? They won't allow the camp facilitators who are external vendors to actually exchange numbers with their own students. I don't know whether that's still a policy, right? But in most cases, I think it is the case. So the teacher will take the stand and say, no exchanging of numbers, and make sure if anything at all, you actually come through me as a teacher, right? Yeah, or the counselor, stuff like that. Yeah. Then other things would be more nuanced, I suppose, based on family upbringing, family values. So different parents have different, like, code of, I guess, conduct to adhere to. Some family will say that as long as they are vulgar or they got certain disrespect to adult, right, don't trust them, right? Or if they have a certain, okay, this is a bit stereotypical, right? But more like those tattoo that denotes, like they are from a gang last time, that kind of thing, right? Or they're got to be careful with them, that kind of thing, right? But now it's different era. But some families still hold certain stereotypical mindsets and attitudes, right? So if those works for you, and if that works for your child, then yes, but you just be careful not to perpetuate certain discrimination, you know. Yeah, but we're talking about the easy way to help train our kids to recognize danger, whether or not to share or not to share. What's the easiest way for you to recognize that? Or help your child recognize that, right? Yeah. So it's all guided by values, So every family got different values, you know. Sometimes the values are also different from mom and dad. So the mom can say one thing and dad say, hey, no, you do this kind of thing. Then if they start confronting each other, then got a problem already, right? So that also exists. So if the mom and dad can align on certain values or certain principles as to what is and is not, then that'll be helpful. Yeah. I hope that's a not too complicated way of explaining it, because it is that nuance. Right? It is that complicated, right? Yeah. Rule of thumb is to basically defer to roles law, teacher, policeman, right? Kind of thing. Yeah. But if not, then in a complex family environment where it's like divorce situation or highly volatile, acrimonious, violent, even worse still, right? Whatever dad say, I don't agree with mom say, then the child say, oh, should I listen to daddy or mommy? Or even more complicated. So try as hard as you may be to tell them what's the easiest way to look for a caring adult. Wow, very difficult. Yeah, no one answer. Yeah, but I guess maybe to go to a professional then will help facilitate and help the child, I guess, reach a level of stability, clarity, hopefully, and maybe a sense of direction to move forward, just to keep themselves safe. And hopefully one parent will be caring enough or open enough to partner the professional to assist the child through some form of like a stable growth environment, or stable and relationship. Yeah, hopefully. Yeah.
In today's situation, I think it's possible, but this will not be applicable back in those days.
Oh, totally agree. Can you even imagine based on your story, I also can see myself. No. Doesn't
Very
exist.
similar
It doesn't
kind
exist.
of.
20, 30 years back is really, there isn't such an environment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. Yes. Fend for yourself.
Yep. Agree for ourselves.
Nick, for all the clients that you deal with, right? I mean, all the young peoples, we are on grounds for divorce here, and we are very interested in, for those children, for those young adults who have parents going through divorce. Can you briefly maybe bring out a case scenario you could share that impacts their life, or things that happen at home that really traumatize them? Yeah.
So my work involves the end of the spectrum, whereby family goes through quite a bit of acrimony, right? Meaning to say there's a lot of quarrels, and some even quite severe. There's violence involved, right? When violence are involved, typically it's quite straightforward. The state will be involved and they remove the child. So child protection, right? Yeah. Otherwise, the child still remains in the household, and then one of the parent will come in and ask for help, and then we will discuss things like applying for protection order, right? So that's extreme end, child protection involved. Come down one level will be applying for protection order. Come down one not so severe would be that of like this whole kind of violence continues in the household. In that kind of environment, not so bad to a point where you need to apply for protection order, not so bad that you need to get the state involved. You still continue this every day. So like walking on eggshells every day. That's fearful that would just throw like a vase down.
I know
is
it's too young, but
No, but this is a very difficult question to approach now for them, because if you ask me, I myself do not believe in marriages anymore, right? Like because going through one failed one, and that was totally unpleasant and just thrown into my face at that point, right? So to the kids it's worse. It's like, I didn't ask to be here, and neither did I ask to be in this situation. So I find it very difficult to approach and tell them that marriage is still good, it can still be beautiful, and it becomes very hypocritical. Right? So I don't want to say things that I cannot bring myself to face it either. So, but I did tell them this: life is yours. You choose the path that you want to go. If you think that this is the best path for yourself, mommy will support you and I'm there for you, right? But if this is not what you really want, because you see for yourself that this is not what you want, neither can I force you. Yeah. But at least for sure, it's not easy for them, because my girl, when she was 7, I forgot she was 7 or 8, she said this thing: I never want to get married. I don't want to live with anybody. I want to live alone. Then I asked her, what about mommy and your brother? She said, you will have your own house. It's normal, right? Then she will say, mommy, you don't live with grandma as well. Then I say, yeah, because I have you, right? And I've got Coco, right? So I'm not all alone, right? All lonely. She say, okay, if you got nobody to stay with you, I'll stay with you. She says that. So, but you see, that at the point she already has this thought. So I don't want to force it more and ask, But in this situation, do you get such questions from? Do you have parents that ask you such questions and how to approach it, tell the children?
Yeah, all the time.
All the time.
Yeah.
So, what would your response be to them?
Along the lines of how you have approached this with your child, because at the end of the day, like I was sharing with you, my dad also, you are your own person, right? You bring to the family, your family, your life experiences. In this case, a separation and what have you, everything else, right? So then we have our child in front of us, right? They will learn that much from us only to a certain point, right? So until that point, you just do your best. You train all your whatever values that you want to teach them, but you reach a point in time where they will figure out what they really want to accept and not accept. So I call this we call this in psychology, right? They enter a stage of individuation. They don't try to test who they are. Right? Yeah, what mommy daddy say? Yeah, I agree. What mommy say? I don't agree. Then what else do I agree? Then you go and find. And they reach a point in time, they explore, they experiment, and then after that, they okay, I think this is more me. Dad is dad, mom is mom, but this is me, right? Yeah. So making available, even almost giving them permission to basically say, this is your life. I mean, at the end of the day, you make good. I'm always here, no matter what. It kind of like assures them, and that will be something that all kids need. Assurance that their support will always be constant, right? And hopefully that they understand that even if you do make a mistake, at the end of the day, they can turn back to you and come back to you, and you will still be there. And hopefully we all as parents cultivate that kind of like thinking, and feeling for them to help them always remember that if life gets really tough and they do make a mistake, right, they can always come back. Hopefully.
The safe haven is back home.
Exactly. Yeah, and they require also a secure base. Yeah, so typically all child, right, this is just a developmental psychology, right, where the secure base needs to be first established, then they go out there, they try, and then they go out on there, they turn and look at you, hey, you allow me to go or not? Then if you say okay, then they'll continue to go out on there, and they will do everything what they will do. They'll climb and then they fall down that kind of thing, right? Then they will find a way, like, because it's secure base, they know they'll come back. But by the time they come back, they're expecting something. They're expecting you to like, well done, and what do you do? Oh, do you achieve this? Oh, can you recognize you actually did this? And they want you to help them recognize and articulate exactly what they do that was called good or that was correct, that they can repeat again. Once they secure that, they will go out again, and they will then the whole cycle repeats. So they call it the cycle of security. Yeah. So our role as the adult is always to make sure that the secure base is always there, firm, present, right? They can be ready to go out there and show the world, whatever it is, and then come back to secure base because it's a safe haven. If all things good, fine. But if it's not good, then the safe haven applies.
Nick, earlier on, you did mention that, for you to cope with your coping mechanism with, your dad's kind of way of teaching, right, is for you to be good in studies, spending all your time in schools, so you did well. For me, when I was going through that whole process, even up to the age of 15, I never felt that was my home. It was never a safe space for me somehow, right? And I would think Kathleen's experience would be quite similar, especially for the children at one point.
The earlier stage when, during the initial part of our separation, when the dad left the house a few times, the kids was there. So because the kids were there, they saw. So the moment the dad left in a way for good, the kids didn't want to go home. They refused to go home. So every day bringing them home was a drag, because most of the time after the school, they will be at my parents' place, because my parents will house them and take care of them till when I was working. So end of the day after my work, I'll bring them back. But they are very hesitant. They don't want to get home. So so bad till the point I have to bring them out to go and play games. I have to bring them out to go and catch Pokemon, do whatever, walks and everything, till maybe about bedtime, just getting them home just to get them ready and to sleep. And the next day, the cycle of school starts and then they are not home throughout again. So it was very difficult to just want to bring them home and let them stay in there.
Yeah. I know of many moms who do that when the environment is not conducive. And they will stay out for very long. I know of some also who after school fetch them ready, they go to a mall and then they'll sit down there and then they'll eat, sleep. Even the afternoon naps are also done in the restaurant, in the mall. Until such time that they are ready to go home, everybody tired, home although they go back home, literally go back home and shower, sleep, that's it, and they start. So I can understand how some family have to go through that, because it's really to keep sane, to be safe, and to make sure that you don't put yourself and the child in a situation where more harm is inflicted on the child. Not purposely, one is just maybe, some are purposely obviously, but some is because that's the character of your spouse, the partner, right? And then you just go down there, once you enter the house, everything just comes out. It's totally not safe, so very toxic, that kind of thing, right? So some parents do resort to doing all those things now.
That's when also a lot of young adults at that age, not adults, teenagers at that time that choose to feel belong, they will join a group, a cult or something like that.
In the early days of my work, yes, they're easily to join gang, or this color, that color, all this gang, that gang. Very easy because they offer that safe space. And in fact, they will provide even protection some more. In terms of really fighting for the child, so they feel more secure. But today in day and age, I think you don't hear that very much. But in some ways, I suppose they hang out together more online. They are so-called gang, quote unquote, from all over the world. So they play in the game space, Discord, different channels, that kind of thing, right? So they talk about everything under the sun. And they go to different channels to talk about specific things, So it will look differently now. And some are safe, like some channels are safe, some platforms are safe, some are not. There are predators there, so to speak, where they are just looking out for vulnerable young people, and then they will just lure them out into the real world and then take advantage of them, right? So all these things got to be careful, parents are,
For those parents who are going through divorce, usually some couples may still stay in the same household while dealing with the whole process. But it's very difficult because they are so emotionally drained by the whole situation. They have to fight their own war, right? How can these parents actually help to make this home, for the children, like make them still feel that this is still home for you?
Yeah. So the context is this, right? The same, everybody still staying in the same household, right? Obviously, I don't like your face, you don't like my face, or I just don't want to talk. So at the very least, I would encourage in this kind of household for the adults to reasonably demarcate the house or establish boundaries. May not be physical, but maybe certain unsaid boundaries. Like if I don't talk to you, don't talk to me, right? Or I do the laundry, you just don't touch, you just do the work, or you do the cooking, whatever it is. Just establish those kind of rules, and after that, don't cross, right? So that both parties just establish that. And then the kids in the household grows up in this environment that is routine, because routine is important for child development. So they may grow up in an environment where mom and dad don't talk, okay, fine, but at the very least, it's functioning, right? I go home, I just go and shower, or daddy's cooking. Okay, as the other parent, I can say, hey, you're home already, you can go and shower. Your lunch is being prepared by your father. You just go down there. So they will know there's a routine, right? So they just go through it. So it builds a secure base, right? Not ideal, because lack of conversation, lack of empathy, attending, sounding ear, that kind of thing, right? But secure nonetheless, because they can go back home and they know this is going to happen anyway, right? So that's helpful for development of the child. Hopefully the adults can bring themselves to reach that right? I know of some adults who I just don't want to have anything to do with you, so then they all assume this, I assume that, kind of thing, and they just figure mother the way around the whole entire household. A bit tough. But at the very least, establish something like that.
Right.
Yeah, that would be helpful for the child at least. Yeah.
Okay. Kat, so, as a real estate agent yourself, when you have inquiries like that, especially when, the client that you had, they probably will have asked you, should I even sell this home now?
A lot of times I get such questions, right? So the first thing is I cannot decide for them to sell, to stay, to buy over. I can't because I'm not the judge. So at this point, I usually will ask them, what do they decide to do, right? So if they need help with doctors, I'll send them towards the side where they need to speak to psychologists, they need to speak to lawyer, they need to speak to whoever that is involved first. But usually when it comes to my hands, where I need to handle them, is already, they most of the time they are already divorced. They already have the judgment on hand, the final judgment, interim judgment. So we follow exactly what's in the court decree to help them through. Of course, the compassionate side is a lot of times one party, if we sell the house, if it's split into half, then it's a lot easier. At least they can still maybe buy something smaller for each other and to house the kids, right? But many a times what I hear is one party is not able to have a house. That is the challenge. And many times I hear the person having to care for the children are not able to buy a place on their own. Yeah. And so that leads to a lot more complication. So then I will have to let them to go to certain places whereby they can seek help and to see whether they can talk to the spouse to rent the place, to stay longer, etc., etc. Yeah, it's not the easiest.
Have you ever spoke to your child regarding about your home?
My child.
Yes, your children. I mean, have you ever even asked them? Because after going through all this traumatized event, right? Do they still want that home? Do they want a new environment?
They don't want to go home. They don't want to go home. Yeah. So that home is no longer a home to them. It is just a place to house them, to sleep, and they don't have a choice in it, right? So ended up, the first thing I did when my divorce was finalized was to move out of the place. So I can have a place for them and a place that we call it home again. And it's a place whereby they cannot say, I wouldn't want to give them a chance to tell me, Mommy, I don't want to go home. No. So I brought them to the new place to stay in. They were happy because they have their own room. And I let them do their own decoration. I let them have a say in what they want to have in the room. Except things like maybe a computer in the room or whatever that at the end of the day they cannot handle their own life and studies, right? But otherwise is they can decorate their own room, their wardrobe, whatever, etc., etc. So my kids till today, and they only say, I want to go back home. I want my bed. So there's no more such thing as I don't want to go home. Yeah. Even when sometimes I ask them to stay over at my mom's place because I'm overseas and all. So at least they are being cared for, right? There's no need for them to shutter around. They told me, no need, Mommy, we are old enough. We can be in our own house and then we can still move about on our own. Yeah. So kids are, at this point, they are no longer the same kids. So they have grown up and they have to take charge of their life and they have their own decision making.
Yeah, I mean, I know of families who argue otherwise. I mean, they don't see that. It's circumstantial. That in order to have that kind of a home environment, it's a floor and it cracks, or like say things that will be so hurtful that it's very so demeaning to me, that I am so depressed about what you say about me, so on and so forth. In that kind of environment, a couple of things happen for a young person. One is they develop a certain complex where they see themselves lesser, right? Like they're not good enough, right? Or they feel that they need to protect themselves, right? So I call it either the savior or the fighter, the protector kind of a role, right? So the savior basically means to save myself from being harmed or talked down to. Savior to protect my other parents. Okay, say stereotypical again, assuming the dad is the one that's more violent verbally or physically, right? Then they take on the role that I need to protect mommy, right? Either verbally or physically. So they will be the one standing between mom and dad when they all fight verbally or physically, and they try to protect mom. Or otherwise, if they're older enough, they can protect mom. If not, they will just protect themselves. Then they'll go run into the room. If mom says things like, "Oh, don't worry about me, go into the room," then protect yourself. Then they will have to be in there, having to hear everything, So that's the savior and the protector, right? What trying to say themselves, say the parent, the protector is to protect their own siblings or even protect mom. So if they are in that situation, they develop a certain disposition, certain worldview, that, well, if that's not around, then I have to be the one taking it. So they assume certain role responsibility. And it becomes very burdensome too heavy for a child, if you put it that way. Yeah.
Interestingly, that you brought out this protection order, because myself and Kathleen, we have handled quite a bit of inquiries for divorce matters, and a lot of them actually came with a protection order.
A lot.
Yeah.
Wow.
But because at our level we only spoke to the parents, I mean our clients are mainly adults, right? It would be interesting to hear, exactly from one very specific case that you handled, very, protection order, child was traumatized, worried, and then at your office, what are the exact words that he will describe, the whole situation?
There's so many, right? I mean, let me just aggregate them, Ken. Is it okay?
Yeah.
Aggregate meaning to say that I'll just compile in my mind all the different incidences of the young person, right? And then I'll just share. It may not be specific to any one person. And I'm also careful because it might just help the person listening in connect to their own specific situation. And then I think that will not be very nice also. Is it okay? Yeah. So essentially, what the child goes through is that they do not want to be left alone with one parent or the other. Right? So they may say things like, is there a way for you to say sorry to mommy? Or is there a way for daddy to stay with me tonight? Right? Mommy, I want to do this for you. Is it okay? Or dad, can you stop doing this? Right? So they will say things like this, right? Because they will assume either one of the roles, either the protector role or the savior role. The worst situation is to be the parent role, because there's this thing called parentification. So because they cannot talk to each other, right? Then now one parent will say, "You go look after your titi or your meme," that kind of thing. I need to sort your mother. Your mother's crazy, or your father is going again, that kind of thing, right? It's this nonsense, non-stop. The whole night will be like that kind of thing, right? So then they will quietly, because mom or dad say so, they will go inside the room or look after the other sibling, that kind of thing, right? So and it takes on that whole parenting role. So some of the child will say that, yeah, I need to protect my siblings because otherwise somebody will get hurt, right? I need to keep them in the room. I need to make sure that I bring the plaster in. Or I need to bring the food in, right? So they will say things like that to me, and I will ask the question like, so how do you feel? When you have to go out the door, open up the door, then mom and daddy are actually quarreling, or dad is actually shouting or using this stick or whatever, that kind of thing, right? I feel very scared. I feel very fearful. I don't want them to fight. I want to be helping them. Right?